welcome to Vinyl Verdict. I'm Bell.
I'm Jamie.
And I'm Adam.
And this week it is Adam's pick. That's right, he's picked an album from his collection for us to review, and that album is...
Red by the band King Crimson.
Featuring
Legendary.
Robert Fripp.
It kind of is Robert Fripp. It's really his band.
Yeah.
King Crimson, one of the defining bands of progressive rock, is masterminded by guitarist Robert Fripp. The band would go through multiple personnel and stylistic changes during their 30 years in the studio, and their career can be marked by 3 eras, each in 3 different decades. Red marks the band's 7th studio album and the end of their 70s incarnation, as the band was broken up by Fripp just weeks before release. They were beginning to fall apart during the recording process, and having spent 3 years as a quartet, Fripp would fire violinist and keyboardist David Cross, leaving the band as a power trio, with Fripp on guitars and keys, John Wetton on bass and vocals, and Bill Bruford behind the kit. As I said, I wish I had more notes.
Bill Bruford used to be the drummer, or one of the drummers in Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, clarification on David Cross. The management told him that he had to fire him. He refused.
No, Robert Fripp wanted to kick him out of the band, but didn't want to tell him. They wanted management to because Robert Fripp was in a different part of the world, couldn't tell him. So he said management should fire him before he leaves the U.S. to get back to Europe.
And then they forgot.
But then they didn't do that, and so they fired him like the day before they went into the studio to record this album. He's like, oh. That just is very awkward, I imagine.
Yeah, David Cross is his name, not to be confused with a comedian with the same name.
He's a funny guy.
Yes.
This is not a funny band, though. I've never listened to King Crimson before.
They're kind of a funny band.
No, I've never listened before. I meant to check them out, though, because I know Adam is a big fan. I had no clue what to expect. I've seen the album cover for In the Courthouse.
In the Court of the Crimson King?
Yeah. That's a very iconic pained face in the music community.
That's our 21st century schizoid man cover.
Sure, yeah. But I've never listened. And so I did, and it's good.
This is technically like
You
this
look
is
so
also
scared
called
when you say that.
Like it's not just progressive rock. This is like considered one of the defining albums of progressive metal too, right?
This is a very kind of a proto-metal album for sure. Very influential. Like Kurt Cobain was very vocal about how this album influenced him, and a lot of you can hear the kind of things that would become staples of metal music all across this album. Some of the rhythmic complexity, the dark, aggressive tones, the discordance that is all over this album. I think King Crimson is pretty interesting as a band because even though they very much sit kind of within the rock genre, they're not very blues influenced. Their major influences musically come from jazz and classical.
Yeah.
And the rock stuff is kind of just what they ended up playing. And it's hard to choose like any one album to really represent the entirety of their career because they were such a revolving door of musicians.
I like Discipline.
Discipline's an amazing album that would come out like 10 years after this or something, maybe more like 6.
Three of a Perfect Pair is a great song.
Yeah, and not an amazing album.
No.
Their 80s output is mixed. As I said, this was the 7th album of their 70s run, which includes the iconic their iconic debut, as well as fan favorites A Lark's Tongue and Aspic, and the very nebulous Islands. And also, this is kind of, as I said, this is the end of the quartet. The quartet was on Lark's Tongue and Aspic, Starless and Bible Black, and then this album, but then obviously they turned into a power trio. And also, so you can hear some of the evolution from those sounds on this album, as well as recordings from, like, Providence, one of the tracks on this album, was recorded on tour for their previous album. And this album was recorded at a time where the band was very tumultuous. They were exhausted from touring for years straight, hopping into the studio. They were kind of having internal struggles in terms of creative control. Fripp had a tendency to be rather controlling in particular with the band. It was kind of his band. But what was unique about this album was that he kind of, in his exhaustion, he took a step back in terms of controlling and allowed for John Wetton and Bill Bruford to have more input compositionally, and it pays off, I think. Because we get more melodic, and I think some of the tightest compositions that in their catalog on this album. But one thing is that I feel like you can really hear the turmoil. This is a dark and emotional album, especially for King Crimson, who can have, especially early in their career, spend a lot of time talking about, like, you know, kind of taking old English folk music and, like, you know, it's talking about, like, pipers and the courts of kings with jesters dancing down the halls. And this album's, like, actually about, like, struggle and strife. Like, Fallen Angel is about
gang members
and people dying from violence and, like,
yeah.
So and I think musically you hear a lot of the struggle as well, and it's a very emotional album. I think that's why it resonates with so many people.
What I kind of enjoyed, so Robert Fripp went on to be a guest guitarist on like a dozen albums that I really enjoy. But also Bill Bruford goes on to become the drummer in Genesis on tour because Phil Collins is too busy singing.
Yep.
But Bill Bruford's Wikipedia page is a real trip if you like to ever read about it. He like went in, like he started up like more bands than he ever played in. So like he started up bands and then like 2 weeks later they decided to disband because the record label didn't want to get another band going at this time, or like something stupid like that. The number of times he's been in and out of Yes is incredible. But also like his output is very interesting as well. But Robert Fripp, I own his first solo album. His first solo album is incredible. And then he went on to do most of the production work with Peter Gabriel on most of his albums.
And he'd work a lot with David Bowie.
Yeah, David Bowie.
Played the guitar on the album Heroes. Also, like, King Crimson is kind of like a crossing point for a lot of these prog things. Like, King Crimson's original lineup in '69 had Greg Lake of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Yeah.
And like there's this kind of revolving door of all these people who were super influential in the prog scene, like Ian McDonald on sax, who, you know, just has some great solos on here. But also was in Foreigner and stuff like that. Like there's just so many people that had such a profound influence in the UK rock scene. That had gone through this door. And King Crimson never really got that much mainstream attention. Their debut sold pretty decently, but they never really broke like anything. They got to like the top 30 for their first few albums.
Yeah.
This was their worst performing album at the time.
This album charted though, which I find incredible.
Yeah, it was a different time, man. Prog rock was cool.
Yeah, like
this was like charted as like the 45th album of the top 100.
Like it was like 42 or something like that.
And because of the exhaustion, the poor commercial performance of the album, and interpersonal conflicts, that was why Fripp was like, "Screw it."
Yeah,
he's like the single they released did not perform well. He said, "Whatever, we're breaking up." And then this album, probably because the label also didn't want to promote it because the band had broken up, just didn't perform that well. But it has gone on to be reevaluated. Well, it was evaluated properly. People liked it at the time.
It's been reissued like 36 times. Every time it has it, like there's a 20th anniversary edition. There's a 30th anniversary
King
edition.
Crimson is weird stuff. Like they just released in 2024. They released what is it called?
The Elemental Mix. It includes
which just has like a bunch of extra takes.
Well, it includes elements from the album that like maybe they turned a slider off on the mixing board. It's like, oh, okay, what if we just had that sound back in,
as well as like just straight up new stuff.
Yeah,
like, there's just straight up new recordings, like re-recordings of it, and the guitar tones were shifted.
Yeah,
and it's really weird.
I almost listened to that one first, and I was like, wait, no, this doesn't sound anything like the one that Adam owns. So I went back and listened to it, but yeah, it's really weird. Yeah, it came out last year. It's just called the Elemental Mix. And then I think I listened to the 2010 like 40th anniversary mix or whatever the heck it was. Something like that.
Yeah, I don't know if they have that one on YouTube Music.
Yeah. I think that's what I ended up listening to. But I also had to look it up because this album's only 38 minutes long. It's 5 tracks.
Yes.
But all the versions on there put it over an hour, and I was like, wow, why did Adam pick another long one? And then I was like, wait, no, all these versions include extra tracks that don't exist. They're like live takes and
improvisations,
and jams and
so
anyway.
Thankfully, since it's not that long of an album,
no, it's like 38 minutes long.
It won't take too long for us to take one.
Whoa! Don't I get to talk at all? This?
I don't know. You were on your phone. I thought you
I
said
was
you
waiting
didn't
for my
have notes.
time. I've been listening. I've been waiting my time.
Okay.
I'm only gonna say one thing. This is I got a lot of flack after the Tip of a Butterfly episode. I'm nervous for this one because I feel like it's the same thing where I don't have the knowledge to talk about King Crimson. So if you're a King Crimson fan checking out Vinyl for the first time, give me a little bit of leeway. You know, I need to learn about prog rock, but I'm excited to talk about it. I just might be a little quieter.
Who gave you flack for To Pimp a Butterfly?
IRL, the Spotify comments. You can leave comments on Spotify if you're listening, by the way, or on YouTube, being like, why would you choose this for an episode if you don't have the history of the album and you don't understand it? And I was like, you don't know how the podcast works. Also, you listened to the entire episode because I said that at the very end. But this is another one where I feel like my lack of knowledge just allowed me to kind of listen and enjoy it. Because I knew analytically I may not be able to give a whole lot of insight. I don't need to. Therefore, I can just kind of like sit and enjoy it. There are a lot of interesting sounds here. And, you know, I talk a lot about song length when it comes to the enjoyment of songs and various albums. And, you know, all of these songs are long.
Yeah.
And a lot of them use the time well. Not every single one.
Yeah, you know, I could see how Providence. That's okay. We'll talk about Providence later.
Yeah, but I think it's very interesting what they were trying to do, and well, I guess what they achieved. They did it. I heard it. They did the things. But yes, if you are not somebody who listens to something like this, check out the One Last Listen we're about to do. Maybe try giving this a listen, and if you do listen to this, understand where I am coming from as a noob.
I think if you're going to listen to King Crimson, the two best places to get into them are their debut album or this album. These are the most accessible albums.
What's the debut album?
In the Court of the Crimson King.
Sick album cover, yeah.
It's such a good album cover. They all of their album covers were worse. Some were just straight up bad. Like they got some wonky stuff.
Well, hey, why don't we give this one last listen? Red. I always appreciate when an album starts with the title track.
I just like
ending is also fine, but I like the start with the title.
I like when an album just starts.
This one really just starts.
Yeah, it just goes.
Doesn't even fade. It's just. It's like, what if we chose the most discordant, garbage sounding, weird stuff?
What if I picked the weirdest chord I could play?
Yeah, they really don't have. There's no pretense here. They're not like we're not gonna. They don't lull you into being like, this is gonna be completely normal.
Yeah, to Bell's point, I do like it when you understand why the title track is, or like why the title is the title track or whatever. I
don't care about why it is. I just like it when it's the first one.
Yeah, get it out of the way.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Red opens on this rising melody over a series of discordant, jazzy chords with tumbling drums that eventually settles into a more dark and sinister groove that still maintains that level of discordance using that kind of signature scratchy Fripp guitar tone. But the fort is held down by a beefy bass playing by John Wetton and Bill Bruford hitting some crazy drums. And he has there's a cymbal on this album that is he pulled from a trash can that is featured on this album quite a bit. It's great.
I just want to interject with a Robert Fripp fact. Robert Fripp was
Fripp fact.
He thank you. He invented this thing called a tape delay system called Frippertronics, which I just think is a great name. I don't have any point. I could call it like I need to make something called Sondertronics. Yeah, I just think like Frippertronics is just like a great name for anything.
I agree.
Anyway,
I think one of the nice things about how long the song is, or like how one of the reasons why it works is that it starts off pretty jarring, but then it plays for long enough that you're like, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah.
Like at first I was like, well, I don't like this. It sounds very discordant. It's like it sounds very odd. Things are clashing, and then it goes on for long enough that you're like, all right.
It gives you it gives you enough time to get on its page, and then also they intersect it with these like little bits of like really nice bright harmonies, beautiful chords. The bass goes way up and plays like a really high note on the neck, and it's beautiful. And then the right back end's like like on the drums are like you're like oh, and that like back and forth that of like discordance and chaos with this really fulfilling, beautiful resolution.
and then around 2:45, a cello comes in.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like that switch up.
I think it's
The ominous strings.
Yeah,
I think it's or is it the Mellotron?
no, and this one it's labeled as a cello.
Oh wow!
Yeah, the strings and the
Uncredited.
guitar, as things are pulsing and twisting, and everything comes crashing back in. So good.
Yeah, the celloist isn't credited, but if you were the celloist, write down in the comments.
Thanks for listening. Yeah, and it's so sinister.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good word for a lot of the songs in this album. It's sinister, it's dark, it's evil. And again, that's probably where the proto metal kind of comparisons come from. It's quite a dramatic opening, and interesting that they chose to make an instrumental. The opening track on the album.
A lot of the songs on this album.
Yeah, I'm
are
not
instrumental.
surprised.
There's 2 songs on the album. I don't know if it'd say a lot.
I mean, there's 5.
It's
Yeah,
only,
like half of the song is somewhere instrumental.
well, like 2/5 of the songs.
That's pretty much half if you had to round up.
No.
Yeah, if you had to round up.
If you had to be round,
You can't say I'm wrong. Like if you had to round up,
if you had to
yeah,
round to the nearest
half.
greater half.
You'd say yeah, half full.
Hey, round it to the nearest 1,000. Perfect.
JB, you can't. You used to rate things on a 13 scale. You can't join this
They
discussion.
made me stop. If
did make
anyone's
you stop.
curious why I don't do that anymore, they made me stop.
It's because the audience had to give a resounding boo every time Jamie started rating something.
The audience has never had anything to say about it.
Yeah. Up next is Fallen Angel. Vocals are cool.
Song about a guy who joins a gang.
Very different vibe with the woodwinds, trumpets, and acoustic guitar playing. The backing track is held down by some very mesmerizing electric guitar, and they get their time to shine around 3 minutes in.
Yeah, this is I think this is a beautiful, beautiful track. I love the synth that like sets the mood, and then there's that weird kind of like almost reversed guitar noise.
Yeah.
And then it gets right to the chase of being like, now we're in a nice, more melodic song, and I find this very reminiscent of their first album, where the second track, after being hit with kind of a chaotic, noisy first track, the second track is something that's more laid back,
Tells the story.
a pretty ballad. And man, the acoustic guitar with the harmonics that are in the left side of the mix, with the electric guitar, these lovely short little motifs that appear in the right mix, and this awesome saxophone melody. It's just such a pretty
I
track.
thought it was a trumpet.
Is it a trumpet?
I thought there was
know.
both a trumpet and a saxophone.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I have that written
It
down
might
as
be
well.
an oboe.
I don't think so. Just kidding. I have no idea. I was surprised when I saw the track was 6 minutes long, as it just flies by. Really enjoyed it. Feels like they used the runtime well, and with things evolving and changing up consistently, like it just keeps moving. It's definitely worth throwing on and headbanging along to. It even ends with a fade out, which means there could be an extended version that exists somewhere, and I want that because I would have been down for more of a jam sesh, which we don't really get, or at least not enough of.
Yeah, it's very tight. And like the fact that when you get this beautiful, beautiful verse, and then it goes to this really dark place for the chorus. Mm-hmm. We have the guitar doing the arpeggio, and this just the bass tone on this album is so good. It sounds so great, and it fills up so much space, and you get these distrained vocals like screaming. There's a yell, "Fallen Angel," with the trumpet soloing over it. The jagged electronic guitars enter with a ding, ding, and it's just this massive build to this chaotic kind of. It's like you're falling down a spiral to hell, right? And then it ratchets up, and then it kind of smashes in with a big, huge unison hit before to get to the post-chorus. It's so cool. And Bill Bruford does some crazy ass fills on here.
Yeah, Bill Bruford's a nut. I like that guy.
He is truly something else.
He's probably one of the greatest drummers of all time, and like you don't hear his name come up in the discussion of greatest drummers, at least not very often. But he's prolific. Like if you look at his Wikipedia page, he plays on like 30 or 40 different albums.
Yeah.
Like his work on Seconds Out, which is the Genesis live album for the A Trick of the Tail tour, is incredible. I couldn't tell that it wasn't Phil Collins playing the drums. He does a really good Phil Collins impression. So anyway.
Yeah. I love the guitar solo, the harmonized guitar solo. Bringing the song to a more melodic place with less fear, but still kind of a sense of mourning. And then, as you said, when the track fades out, everything comes in. Like everything comes in. It's just so noisy, but people are starting to take more solos. Like there's a horn solo. The guitar, there's two different guitars playing. There's a guitar solo. Fripp comes with these scratchy, crazy guitars. You get the trash cymbal hits on the drums as you just you fall back to hell and somebody you can't save. It's such an emotional and chaotic, but also like just musically really impressive track.
Mm-hmm.
It's a one of the it's a clear highlight out of the 5 songs on the album, but it's like a really impressive track.
Mm-hmm.
And so the garbage cymbal that I mentioned is very prominently featured on the next track, One More Red Nightmare, where you can hear it right in the intro.
Yes you can.
And I get why he pulled it from the trash. It sounds good for being garbage.
Yeah, it's got a really cool sound. Just the song in general. I don't know what the trash symbol, but everything else is cool. Feels like a lot of songs, like I said, start discordant only for it to immediately hook me. And this is one of those songs where I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, oh, hell yeah. 2:15 to 4 minutes is just so killer with the distorted phasing guitar player playing the sax that comes in and rock solid drums. I totally forgot what the rest of the song sounded like before that. So that little instrumental change happens during the chunk and it goes back to the other song. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's just like 1:45 of something completely different. And then it goes back to dum, 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 dum.
Yeah, it's got some really cool little instrumental breaks, right? Yeah. This is a song about a guy who wakes up from a nightmare on a tour bus. Or on a bus.
Damn.
Yeah. He keeps dreaming about being on
It's something that happened to him.
Yeah, he's dreaming about a plane crash, and he wakes up just before he dies in his dream. But he wakes up on a tour bus, and he's like, no, I'm gonna go fall back asleep, and there's gonna be another one.
They got like a phased claps.
Yeah,
it's like it's so weird. And yeah, the jam in the middle is so cool, and also the verse is groovy. Like the verses are do that riff is so good.
Do.
I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, the sax that comes in around the 5-minute mark is great. It's in the little middle section I mentioned there as well, but the jamming is again impeccable. It has a weird ending. They're just like, and quickly wrap it up. It's like, pew, song is over.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, sure. But I really liked it.
Yeah, I feel like the kind of the sax playing at the end kind of reminds me of Floyd, like Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. These guys are it's insane. This album's full of just insanely talented musicians jamming out, playing incredible riffs with such a great overall sense of tone and vibe. Like I think that's what this album they really nail. Is such a great sense and a mood, which is more unified than most of their albums tend to be. And that takes us that's the end of the first half of the album. And now we go to side B that has only 2 tracks on it. The first one being Providence. Now, to give some background on Providence, King Crimson loved to experiment with free improvisation, compositional or lack thereof technique that was pretty popular with some of the free jazz movement, but it was more popular as well as with European classical music at the time. They did a lot of this in the studio and a lot of it in live performances, especially this incarnation. The quartet was very big on doing these at live performances. This is a mastered version of a live performance that they did, which is why the violinist David Cross is on it.
Yeah.
Most of their albums include at least one. Some of them suck. Some of them, I think Moonchild on their first album has a 8-minute section, is an 11-minute long is an 11-minute long track with like 8 minutes of free improvisation, and it's boring and doesn't develop. This one I think is good. It is definitely the most experimental thing on the album.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of those squeaks and squawks coming out of the violin.
Yeah. I think the vibe is very incredible. Like, they do a great job of establishing it. The looming terror, the uneasiness. It's a creation that is of pure vibe rather than composition.
It's called Providence because it was recorded in Providence, Rhode Island.
Oh.
Yeah, that's where the show was. They have a live album that came out directly after this one came out. It's called like the cover of the album is just them holding up a silver bar, and it just says USA and something else on it.
They have a lot of live releases.
I forget what it's called, but anyway, it's not a bad live album, and parts of it are taken from that show. So, yeah,
as I say, it's definitely the least accessible track. I think that the biggest criticism of it is that it takes a bit too long to get going.
Literally 5 minutes.
It's something. It doesn't pop off until 5 minutes.
Like, I could handle the first 2 minutes of it with the tone, but like, it takes a while to get going. And if I was seeing it live, I think I wouldn't mind.
That'd be the sound check, bro. You just heard the roadie on stage. It's like so weird.
It's all of them.
Even then, it'd be one person doing something for 5 minutes.
What do you mean one person doing something?
It's like one instrument at a time or one sound at a time for like. I mean,
they're like all improvising together to hit the tone. Like, there's like the little strike. There's the bass guitar. There's the strikes on the like percussion instruments. There's like the xylophones and stuff.
I want you to set the expectation for the listener who goes to listen to this and hears like a violinist in another room.
Yeah,
who's learning, like, doesn't know how to play violin.
Screech.
And then like there's a bass player, but it sounds like again they're too shy to play. It sounds like 7-year-olds are respectfully trying to learn an instrument for the first time. Like, it's all so weird.
It's far more thought out than a 7-year-old.
I mean,
but it is all of them improvising on a theme at the exact same time. And I think if I was there live, I'd be like, okay, I can sit with this. I can watch this.
I'm sure there would be more theatrics going on the stage than them just trying to squonk away on.
I doubt it. I honestly doubt that, Jamie. I don't think there would be. It was 1974. They would just be playing, and you'd be like, wow.
Peter Gabriel used to dress up in multiple costumes
and do this.
No.
Yeah. All I've written down is it's a real slow start to this one. It's definitely cinematic, but nothing happens until minute 5, which is far too long to build up to something. It doesn't even really build up to anything that I was really into.
And then it keeps going, but it cuts it off.
Yeah, there's some cool jazzy songs, but it's not for me.
I feel like if you were going to take this live performance and put it on an album, it could have been condensed down to get the experimental vibe and also the cool build up in the back half.
Yeah. Like the whole recording, if you listen to it, is 16 and a half minutes long. Like, I know why they cut it down, because no one wants to listen to that for 16 and a half minutes, but it feels like it ends just as it's getting good.
I think it's only 10 minutes long.
Oh, interesting, because there's on that
Improv Providence full version bonus track, 10 minutes and 2 seconds.
Oh,
the 60-minute one is Improv A Voyage to the Center of the Cosmos.
Oh, excuse me.
And two, I think this is really cool. It's interesting, but it's definitely the improvisation side of King Crimson is the hardest part to get into.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is like, it is literally pretentious to assume that people want to listen to it. But also, it's very fascinating and was a core part of their songwriting process.
Yeah, sure.
And there's a lot of really cool ideas and bits that happen in here. But I definitely, I didn't understand until I got more into King Crimson. I did not I would always be like, oh, and here's the song where they just dick around on their instruments and you listen to it, I guess. And this one is one of their better ones. It's not their best improvisation.
It's their better dicking around.
Again, bass tone's incredible. It's a cool, good departure from the album. I agree that it could have been a little bit trimmed down. Because a lot of time, especially because when I listen through to the album, I do feel like I am just kind of waiting so I can listen to the best song on the album,
Starless.
which is the next song, Starless.
It's got a beautiful combination of strings and saxophone.
Yes, it's an incredible, incredible track. Many people widely regarded as one of King Crimson's best tracks, and for good reason. It's a beautiful track with an incredible opening kind of guitar solo, great vocal performance, the mellotron, the strings, everything culminates in just an incredible journey. And one of the most intense and sinister buildups of any track. Like the middle section, it's like 4 minutes of the slowest build.
Yeah.
And the way it uses the tension to ratchet before blowing up into this crazy riff, like where they're just all playing it like they're all like barely holding on for dear life to the beat, to keeping everything in line, and it is so exciting to listen to.
I liked it. This one was recorded for their previous album, or like written for their previous album, but was considered too primitive to put out.
Yeah.
For that one.
And that's also, it's funny because their previous album was called Starless and Bible Black.
Yeah.
And that's like,
well, that's a line in the song.
The main line. That's the main part of the chorus. But honestly, I think it is such an incredible composition. I would go as far as to say is one of the best prog rock songs ever written. Definitely in the top 10. What
about Roundabout?
I would agree that that's also one of the best prog rock songs ever written.
All right.
Do you have any other daring retorts?
No, that was it.
Yeah, this is another slow song, but it's got a lot more substance than Providence, which I enjoy. Lots of strings and sax, and the vocals are given a lot of space to shine, which is neat. The vocals do end around 4 minutes into the song, and then things slow down a lot. Everything's stripped down to just the bass and guitar plucking away for quite a while until drums are added back, and then things start to get a bit faster until 5 minutes pass, until they're kind of back to fully jamming out with the sax player. I don't know if the payoff is worth it.
Oh, dude.
It's a long time.
It's so good.
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
You're not a gooner, are you?
5 minutes, bro? No, I'm here for pleasure, immediate
yeah, you're cooked. You're Gen Z cooked fucking...
5 minutes is it's just too long, bro. 5 minutes is far too long. Because then the jam is only like a minute long. It's under 2 for sure. But it's like...
It's the buildup is part of the thing, and the buildup I think the buildup is so intense and so subtle. The singing, John Wetton's great. I agree. The singing.
Make it a 2-3 minute buildup.
I don't know, man. I think the length of it is what makes it so good.
Maybe.
I get why it's a lot.
Again, maybe it's like if you listen to last week's episode, I said I didn't mind the lengths because when you put it on to not review it, it's not as bad. Maybe that's a thing. Like when I was driving here, I was listening to this album and, it didn't stick out quite as much. But I don't know. Like if I'm putting on a record, do I want 5 minutes of silence, or near silence for a large chunk of it? Like, I don't know. I don't know if it does too much for me.
That's a shame.
I do think it is good. I think it's a cool idea. But
me, I guess also, being somebody who's been into prog music and slower, more experimental post-rock kind of stuff that will take its time, for me it doesn't feel that long. Like this song is not for me, this song is not like a test at all of my attention in terms of like,
I don't know if it's my attention, it's just my I'm not enjoying that time, right?
Yeah, I'm just willing.
Like I can pay attention, but I'm like,
there's
okay.
a lot of songs where I'm willing to listen to 5 minutes of like build up so that I can get to that like great moment at the end. But like I get why that's not for everybody. Because you could in the same of this, you could have listened to the first 3 songs of Band on the Run and had a really good time.
Had a great time, yeah.
Right? But they're like, no, you're gonna listen to this one note and we're gonna build, and the drummer's gonna play different wood blocks, and the guitar's gonna slowly build.
But then it ends with the sound that kind of reminds me the MASH theme song. So I'm like, I don't understand how we ended up here.
Theme song.
It's got too many different sounds.
MASH is so good though.
If there was like a gritty reboot
MASH?
to MASH, this is what I imagine.
Like how they had the gritty reboot of the Fresh Prince.
Sure.
Nobody asked for that. Anyway.
All right. Why don't you tell us about the album itself?
Well, Jamie hasn't said anything about this song.
I did.
What did you
It
say?
has beautiful strings and saxophone.
Oh, okay.
And then I like that how we talked about how it was recorded for the previous album, but it was considered primitive.
12-minute song. And he's like,
He
I like the
He
strings.
said, I have enough things to say about the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, that was it.
That's the most exciting part of the song, to be fair.
Start tell us about the rest of the album.
Oh my god, you guys! I'm so sad. I'm so saddened by this.
And the number 37 spot.
It's such an incredible piece of music, and all Jamie has to say is, "I like the strings." But I'm like, this is like,
Yeah, you didn't like the minute 4 of this dead silence?
it wasn't dead silence. It's a slow, tense build as the guitars chromatically climb. The tension's ever increasing. The bass is
Okay, I'm
sinister.
sorry. Comment
The
section, I was
crescendo's
joking. I was
incredible.
joking. I loved
It's
it.
this wonderful build-up as we get different sound effects filling in the space. You don't know where it's going. You want it to go somewhere, but it never relents. And then when it eventually, every single moment, when it eventually moves ahead, is a profound impact before it blows up into an absolutely insane jam that I don't even know how to count how they play it. And it's like them all play, these incredibly skilled players playing at this emotional apex at the top of their skilled power. Like their skill levels are so freaking high. And it is just everything that could possibly culminate into a great progressive rock song comes in at one moment at this. It's like this is peak fucking music, you guys. Peak fucking music. It's so good.
Well, when you put it that way, I guess it was okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not for me. Again, I cannot understand it. But if you can't portray it, it's also your problem, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty good, but I don't have crazy thoughts on it. I will say that one of the things I was just reading this. Bill Bruford said that he left Yes to join King Crimson because King Crimson was the only band you could join where you could play in 17/16 time and get paid.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Probably. And that concludes, so at the end of that track concludes
Red.
And King Crimson as we would know it for several years.
7 or 8 years, yeah.
The album itself. It's got all three of the boys.
It's got the Beatles for sale thing. Or with the Beatles, rather.
It's a very, out of all of their album covers, this one is one of their
It's like that
least
Queen
interesting.
one, too. What was the Queen one where they're all on the front cover?
That's not a Queen album cover. You're thinking of the Bohemian Rhapsody music video.
Sure.
It was not an album cover.
Whatever.
The one that they were all on the front cover? Or are you thinking of Killer Queen where they're all laying down naked with their shirts off?
Maybe. No, it's like a headshot. Like other bands have tried to try
this.
No, I don't remember. Anyway, With the Beatles does this, where they're kind of silhouetted and it's black and white.
Yes, it's very interesting. I like the kind of smirk. That I think that's John Wetton. I think that's Bill Bruford, and I think Bill Bruford's in the middle. I think John Wetton's on the left, and Robert Fripp just staring you down, being like, "You will listen to my 8-minute noodling."
Does Robert Fripp have glasses? I don't remember.
Yes, he's ugly as hell. Sorry, glasses wearers. It's
No,
just
I don't
true.
Think I don't think he has glasses. I think he's the.
He has This is Robert Fripp. I will. Yes, I 100% correct. He has glasses all the time.
Carry on.
It's definitely one of their most understated album covers for a band that can have some pretty zany album covers. It's better than their last album's album cover. This is a 1974 Canadian pressing. On the back of the album, we have the track listings and a power meter where it's redlining, baby.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a VU meter. Yeah. Like the ones I have on top of my stereo stack. Right?
I mean, it goes. Does it go to 7? Didn't think so.
I don't know.
And then it's just got credits. Pretty simple package. I don't know. I bought this. This is a used record. It's in quite good condition. I don't know if it came with a plastic sleeve originally. I'm assuming it probably didn't. But whoever owned this previously lovingly put it in a plastic sleeve.
Oh, I hate plastic sleeves, dude. They never go back in. They always crunch one of the corners.
That's okay by me.
Then it makes it look like the thing's got a chubby.
They help the record. They keep the record better than a paper sleeve.
Yeah, well, the certain plastic sleeves. Yeah.
Yes, it's a nice plastic sleeve.
Okay.
It's an Atlantic pressing, so it's got the Atlantic label. It sounds really good. It's a decent pressing. It's nothing incredible. I'm sure there's better pressings out there, especially for such a celebrated album. But I can't remember what I got it for, but it was not a lot. It was maybe $10, $15. It was a used record. Some of this stuff, some of the King Crimson stuff can be kind of hard to find.
Pricey.
At least in Canada.
Yeah.
And not a lot of it has been repressed, or if it has been repressed, it's been either in expensive limited editions or box sets. Most of this album though, Red, has definitely received lots of pressings and modern updates. One cool thing, and I'd say it's worth checking out if you like this album but haven't checked this out, I would recommend checking out the Dolby Atmos mixes. Almost every single album that they have done has been remixed by Steven Wilson of Porcupine Tree fame, who is an absolutely incredible producer. He wins the Grammy every year for best surround sound production.
He's really good at finding that. Yeah.
Incredible at mixing. He is actually the one who is doing the mix on the new remaster of the Pink Floyd
Live at Pompeii
movie. And that makes me very excited because he is such a great ear. And a lot of the times on albums like this will really let you get into the details of each of their playing on this album because there's not a ton of stuff on here.
He's also putting out the album. So that movie's never... The soundtrack to the movie's never been released, and they're putting it out finally. So I'm excited to hear that. I'll probably buy that. Maybe we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Are you excited to see Live at Pompeii?
When do we want to go see that?
Yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah. It won't have anything from...
well, so far I have two of their albums.
It's all from their earlier stuff. Because I think it was recorded before Dark Side of the Moon.
And if it sucks, I'll just eat the popcorn and enjoy that.
Dude, it has Echoes on it. It's awesome.
Echoes is such a good
Echoes
song.
performance is so good.
At the end of the movie, they talk about the production of Dark Side of the Moon. Anyway.
Yeah.
Did you want to hear our thoughts on it, young fella?
I would love to get your guys' final verdict.
I like this album. There's other King Crimson albums I enjoy. I don't actually own any King Crimson albums of my own, but I like some of their 80s stuff. I like some of I like their earliest stuff as well. This was kind of neat too. Sorry I didn't have much to say about Starless, which is just okay, I guess. But I put King Crimson's Red in the number 16 spot, just below Dookie by Green Day, and just above Stone Temple Pilots Core. It's in good company. It's right next to Patsy Cline. It's sort of near Watouche. It's right in the middle of the pack because we've listened to, I don't know, just over 17 albums.
That's
way off. 37 albums. Yeah.
Well, hey, I liked this more than I thought I would. Not that I didn't think I'd like it, I guess. I had no expectations whatsoever and only knew that their songs were long and jam heavy. Though I don't think this album is something I'd put on often, I do think that I would probably maybe listen to this every once in a while. I'm putting Red by King Crimson in the 26th spot, below Homogenic by Björk, and above Time Out by the Dave Brubeck Quartet. This is the this music is cool, but I don't think I get it range. Where it's I think, Björk and Dave Brubeck I have positive thoughts of, but I also don't fully get it and probably wouldn't listen to that often. I think I'd listen to more by King Crimson, but I'm not running out to go do that, Adam, what do you think?
You know what's funny? I put it almost in the exact same spot as you in terms of albums, not in terms of placement. I think that this is an incredible progressive rock album, essential listening for anybody who wants to look into prog, especially the 70s kind of prog. Great jumping off point for King Crimson as it has some of their best and most accessible tracks, and their least stupid is the least level of their stupid, wacky stuff. I think that the emotion, the songwriting, the production, everything on this album culminates in a great, dark, exciting album to listen to. And that is why I am placing it in my 10th spot, below Bjork's Homogenic and above the Dave Brubeck's Quartet's Time Out. Yeah, you can't go wrong with anything in the top 10 right now for me.
What do you guys want to talk about next week? What are we talking about?
Next week, we have our episode where our sisters have chosen albums from our collections.
Yeah, coincidentally, we all have sisters.
What are the odds?
What are the odds? Literally,
I don't know
50%.
if it's maybe it's not a coincidence.
I don't know if that's the actual odds.
I don't know.
50%.
I go to math
It's
school.
not 50% because that's you have to take the odds of having a
You
sibling.
either have a sister or you don't have a sister.
And that's not how that works.
I'm
In this
pretty
case,
sure
it does. Yeah. In
No,
this
because
case,
because the odds you have to have the odds of you having a sibling.
Well, do you have a sister?
No,
Yeah, you do.
shut up.
What did your sister choose, Adam?
My sister chose from my collection. She chose "Vessel" by 21 Pilots.
Wow. What about you, Jamie?
my sister chose "Rumors" by Fleetwood Mac, but also complained that I didn't have any Alan Jackson. Sorry.
And my sister chose the album "Just As I Am" by Bill Withers, which Jamie bought me.
Your mom likes that album too.
Yeah, your mom liked that album too,
Don't know
eh?
what that's doing with anything, but my sister chose that. And you know what? She'll love to hear that you think my mom and her are similar. I'm sure she'll love that.
She'll love that.
So
Shout
yeah,
out to Bell's mom.
tune in for that. 21 Pilots, Bill Withers, Jamie's pick. Oh, Fleetwood Mac. Crazy. Two iconic records.
And a 21 Pilots album.
And for the aftercare question, put down in the comments what your fave prog rock song is.
What?
Do we have
That's
to
the worst aftercare question.
do we have to do that?
No, I don't want to know
There's
yours.
2 comments from us.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll comment down below what our favorite is. Mine, if I listen to prog rock, you said Pink Floyd counts?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
Breathe in the Air is going to be my top.
Breathe.
Yeah, Breathe.
Oh, that's a good song.
Really, breathe.
That's a good one.
It's a great one. And it
I
pretty
don't know.
much.
Shine on Your Crazy Diamond is really good.
Yeah, I was gonna
Shine on you
choosing
crazy
anything off of, except for maybe On the Run. If you chose On the Run, I'd be like, what?
Band on the Run?
No, On the Run,
Band.
like from Pink Floyd, from Dark Side of the Moon. If you chose that, I'd be like, huh?
Great Gig
But
in
pretty
the
much
Sky?
anything off that album could be.
Oh, Great Gig in the Sky.
could be
Good.
a great choice.
I like the Carpet Crawlers from the Limelight.
Carpet Crawlers.
So good.
Oh, man, that is a good song. Is that prog rock?
Yeah.
What makes it prog rock?
How
Because these are all very different songs.
pretentious it is.
Yeah.
Is Carpet Crawlers pretentious? I like that
Limelight's
song.
Down on Broadway is so pretentious that Peter Gabriel had to leave the band.
It's so tough to choose. I would say 2112 might be my favorite.
By Rush.
By Rush. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that song.
Jamie loves Rush.
Oh, God. Let me tell you how much I love Rush.
If as long as we're sticking to rock and we're not including like progressive metal.
Oh,
we're
like
including-
something by Dream Theater then?
Because we're including progressive metal, it'd probably be like White Walls or prequel to the sequel, but Between the Buried and Me.
Oh,
Gonna
that's a
be
good album.
Dope Smoker.
Or Dope Smoker's not progressive rock.
That's stoner
It's
metal.
stoner metal and stoner doom.
There's too many genres.
I know, right? Somebody needs to
Metal
stop.
metal is terrible for this. Like there'll be one band in this genre, and it'll be like, what kind of? It's like, well, it's alt metal, and it's like one band in it or
Listen,
something.
EDM is just as bad.
I went and saw a live show, and it was a podcast recording. I'm not shouting them out because I don't want competition. And the guy was like, "What kind of music do you guys make?" And the lead singer said, "I can give you the right answer. I can give you the right answer, which is pretentious, or I can give you the wrong answer." And I said that was a really pretentious answer. And he didn't give the genre or say how to describe his music. And I was like, which is too bad because it was a really good band. And I'm not going to shut them out either because I don't want to poop on them because good local band. But so that's a very pretentious answer.
What genre were they?
Well, I can give you the pretentious answer or the wrong answer.
I think that's pretentious in its own right.
Mm-hmm. See you
You got
later.
me.
Bye.